Hello everyone and welcome back to Affinity for Commander. My name is Alex and today we're bringing back our Best in the Multiverse series. It's even got its own new funky intro. See what I mean? However, due to the fact that we have just moved house and our recording studio currently is a mess... Okay, maybe not that bad, but just for the time being you'll have to content yourself with simply the auditory aspect of myself rather than the visuals as well. Getting back on track, yes, we've now covered every single colour pairing in the Best in the Multiverse series and we are stalling a bit on the shards, or wedges, whatever. So, here at Affinity for Commander, we are instead going to be asking the big questions on thematic and tribal commanders. One such question we'll be answering today, which you should already know because in the title of this video, is going to be which is the best Merfolk commander. As always, if you like any of the cards you see in this video, then be sure to make your purchase through our affiliate links in the description box below. It doesn't cost you anything extra and it really helps the channel out a lot. Equally, if you want your deck to stand out further from the crowd, then be sure to check out Alter Sleeves and their extensive catalogue of exceptionally fantastic art sleeves. As always, the Affinity for Commander content is made possible thanks to the support of our amazing patrons. You guys are truly awesome. For now though, let's get started. Number 5. Now, I struggled with who to actually give the number 5 spot to, as I was torn between this card and Tatyova Benthic Druid. But honestly, Tatyova is a great card for a landfall deck, but the fact that she wants lands hitting the battlefield isn't really a thing that synergizes well with merfolks wanting to splash up onto the field every turn. So yes, good landfall commander, not for our merfolk, hence why I'm giving the number 5 spot to Tishana, Voice of Thunder. Tishana is a legendary creature Merfolk Shaman for 5 generic mana, 1 green and 1 blue. She reads, Tishana Voice of Thunder's power and toughness are equal to the number of cards in your hand. You also have no maximum hand size, and when Tishana enters the battlefield, draw a card for each creature you control. Tishana firstly is a Merfolk, so points there. Equally, Tishana can really help us lean into the spammy nature of Merfolk, playing out a load of smaller ones like Stony Baronet, Mist-Cloaked Herald, Jade Bearer, or Silver Glow Adept, then play Tishana and refill our hands to do it all over again. Plus, you now have a beefy commander, which is, well, always a bonus. And that's one of the reasons why Tishana makes it onto the list. The fact that unlike the rest of our commanders on this list, they can be a massive threat by themselves just by being a big creature, and threatening some serious commander damage swings. So we have a potentially huge commander with a relevant static ability, draws our decks and rewards us for our spammy nature, and also rewards us for being very aggressive. Definitely worth the number 5 spot. Number 4. Now this creature is our only non-merfolk on the list. I know, but you'll see why I'm including them here as their ability can be very helpful to us, and Thaasa, God of the Sea, name drop, is definitely the proverbial god of merfolk. On Theros at least. So Thaasa is a legendary indestructible god for 2 generic mana and 1 blue. She is a 5/5 and reads, as long as your devotion to blue is less than 5, Thaasa isn't a creature. And at the beginning of your upkeep you scry 1. And finally for 1 generic mana and 1 blue, target creature you control can't be blocked this turn. Now the main reason I'm putting Thaasa at number 4 is due to that activated ability. A lot of merfolk such as Thada Adel, Seafloor Oracle, Scroll Thief, and the ever salt-inducing Wanderline Prophets all need to hit your opponents in order for their abilities to trigger. Thus, being able to give these cards unblockable for the low cost of 2 mana, which is not limited to one creature, is such beautiful synergy, it just can't be ignored. Equally, with the rather colour-intensive nature of a lot of Merfolk's casting costs, turning Thaasa into a creature is really not a difficult task. And last I checked, a 3 mana indestructible 5/5 that also lets you scry every turn is pretty good. In fact, it's so good, she grabs the number 4 spot. Number 3. Moving from one god to another, we have Svalian of Sea and Sky, a gorgeous piece of art that begets a gorgeous set of abilities. Svalian is a 3/4 Merfolk god for 1 generic and 2 blue mana. She reads, Svalian of Sea and Sky has indestructible as long as you control at least 2 other Merfolk. Whenever they attack, you draw a card, and other Merfolk you control have Ward 1, which essentially means Merfolk can't be the target of spells or abilities our opponents control unless they pay an additional 1 generic mana. So right off the bat we have a 3/4 for 3, which is alright. Who has indestructible as long as you play your deck. Having at least 2 Merfolk out should not be an issue, and our commander allows us cards on attack, not damage, just on attack. And then we have the tiniest bit of protection for the rest of our board. Not massively impactful, but enough to be slightly annoying to people trying to count mana whilst holding up an assassin's trophy or something. So Svalian does a lot for our Merfolk as a tribe by giving them that bit of protection and allowing us to draw cards off her attack trigger. Which does lead to the idea that we want to be attacking with our commander more than not. And whilst a 3/4 with potential indestructible is very good, it certainly could be better. Equipping our god with cards like Blackblade Reforged or Stoneforge Masterwork means that when our commander attacks, it will be a force to be reckoned with, and hopefully not blocked. But obviously just making our opponents unable to block Svalian is also a good idea. So Whisper's Silk Cloak and Commander's Plate are both great for the unblockableness and protection both pieces of equipment give. Speaking of protection, there are also ways to really help protect our board by doubling up on that warding ability. Mainly by making non-legendary copies of Svalian with cards like Helm of the Host, Sakashima of 1,000 Faces, or Spark Double. With these cards, we then get double wards for our Merfolks and a single point of ward for each of our copies of Svalian. Overall, I just find our new god rather well costed and strong Merfolk commander that can have a lot of different interactions and ways of playing her. A solid card and definitely deserving of the title of a Merfolk god. Number 2. Now onto a bit of an oldie but an oh so goodie, Sig River Guide. For 1 blue and 1 white, Sig River Guide is a legendary 2/2 Merfolk wizard with Island Walk. He reads, for 1 generic and 1 white mana, target Merfolk you control gains protection from the colour of your choice until the end of turn. So Sig himself has an ability not dissimilar to that of Thaasa. After all, giving one of your Merfolk protection from green and then swinging into the Sylvala player essentially reads unblockable. But the 2 mana ability, which can be activated without a restriction, is so much more powerful than that. If someone wants to kill one of your Merfolk with Terminate, give her protection from black. Well okay, someone in response thinks they're going to get rid of it with a Chaos Warp, so give her protection from red in response. This lack of restriction in activation makes Sig's ability so powerful in terms of protecting your board as well as being able to get in for some really needed damage, like needing your Thada Adel to hit so you can grab your opponent's fast mana rocks that they haven't drawn yet. However, beyond Sig's powerful ability, there is another reason he grabs the number 2 spot, and that is located in the top right hand corner. White Merfolk, whilst not printed since the Lorwyn set, are some of the most impactful. Judge of the Currents generates us life whenever we tap a Merfolk. Summon the School is a great means of generating a board state and then being able to reoccur the tribal sorcery. And last but not least, Stony Brook Schoolmaster, whilst on the surface not a huge powerhouse of a card, after all you get a 1/1 on attack, However, when you combine it with a card like, let's say Intruder Alarm, then you get to untap the Skullmaster whenever it generates a token. So now you need just some simple way of tapping the white Merfolk, and you now have infinite tokens. And the reason I bring in this particular combo is that Sig's unique colour identity of blue-white makes him the only Merfolk legend to be able to have both of these cards together in one deck. Combine this with being able to include cards like Chroma's Will, Flawless Maneuver, Unbreakable Formation, or if you've got deeper pockets, Teferi's Protection, then you get to keep your lovely board and Merfolk safe from an opponent's pesky board wipes. With a Chroma's Will and Unbreakable Formation also being great for getting in some damage when the time comes. Sig River Guard gets to play some of the best cards from Merfolk Tribal, have access to a great set of combo pieces, and has a powerful ability all on his own. Just a shame it's not quite as good as our final commander. Number 1. Now, I was more torn about this one than Tatyova and Tishana. Should the number 1 spot go to this card or Sig? In the end, I decided on this one, hence the list. But my reasons were thrown on the ground, and in the end I simply said, if I, Alex, rugged, handsome stallion of a man, were to build a Merfolk deck, would I rather play Sig, or would I rather play this card as my commander? And I decided I'd rather play Kamena, Tyrant of Orazca. Kamena is a 2/4 legendary Merfolk shaman for 1 generic, 1 green, and 1 blue. They read, tap another untapped Merfolk you control. Kamena, Tyrant of Orazca can't be blocked this turn. Tap 3 untapped Merfolk you control, draw a card. Tap 5 untapped Merfolk you control, put a +1/+1 counter on each Merfolk you control. So that's a lot of lines of text. And weirdly enough for a card like this, not a single line is wasteful. Kumena's first ability can lend them to becoming more of a Voltron style commander, equipping Kamena with swords for days, tapping a single Merfolk, and then going in for that commander damage kill. The second line of text is just music to my ears. Draw a card. Yes, you have to tap 3 Merfolk to do it, but this can be done in your opponent's end step, just as a board wipe is resolving, or after blockers have been declared. Which can even be helped by another great Merfolk card in Mero Commerce, because pseudo-vigilance is still vigilance. As with our tribal enchantment, we're now able to attack or activate one of Kumena's abilities in our turn, and then get our Merfolk untapped in our end step. Then we have Kumena's last ability, which helps solve one of the main problems of Merfolk, and they kind of lack a finisher. But with Kamena doing their best impression of Gavany Township, we can now buff our entire team and start slapping for real damage. And with Kamena's rather unique set of abilities, then we also get to abuse a different set of cards that interact well by untapping our Merfolk to make the most of our commander's abilities. Mero Regery helps to keep our Merfolk untapped by untapping them whenever we play more Merfolk. The aforementioned Mero Commerce untaps all our Merfolk in our end step. Merc Fiend Liege was technically not a Merfolk, acts as a potential double lord, and a great means of untapping our creatures to use Kamena's abilities in all of our opponent's turns. And we can also use Dramatic Reversal for this purpose. That's right, it's not just a combo for Isochrom Scepter. And the final card I want to talk about in terms of untapping is Benefactor's Drought. Whilst it does untap all creatures, the fact that it sets up some great blowout plays when you can untap all creatures after someone's declared a massive swing and suddenly there are now blockers, well, that's just great. But it also means you can draw some cards and still activate Kumena's abilities. And finally, Kamena also gets to play around with cards that want to be tapped, but don't necessarily want to be attacking. Surge Spanner functions as a great way to bounce any permanent you don't like to its owner's hand, and Fallow Sage is a nice and simple way of just letting you draw a card. And by tapping your own creatures, we can also trigger Quest of Renewal super easily. And then we get to have another convenient way of untapping all our creatures in each other player's turns. Yes, okay, we can also run Seedborn Muse for this, but at this point, do I really need to point out that Seedborn Muse is good? What's that? Oh, I do. Oh, okay. Seedborn Muse is a very good card. You should very much be running Seedborn Muse. And that's why I like Kamena more than Sig. Whilst Sig might be more objectively powerful with their protection ability, I'll still sit with Kamena. They have good versatility in their commander's strengths, and also have the words draw a card printed on it, which you know how I feel about that. And going back to what I said before, they're still the commander I would personally choose to head a Merfolk deck. I much prefer green-blue to blue-white, and I find them to be that just bit more fun and interactive than Sig. So that is why Kamena, Tyrant of Orazca, is my top pick and the best Merfolk commander. And that will be the end of the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. What is your favourite legend to head a Merfolk commander deck? Whatever your thoughts, leave them in the comments below. Reread every single one of them. As always, if you like this type of content, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more just like it. You can also follow us on Twitter @4Commander or on Facebook through the links in the description box below. And if you really like us, you could consider becoming a patron of the channel yourself for access to exclusive polls, content, and even EDH related rewards. For now though guys, I've been Alex, and I will see you next time.